Mammalean, changing the subject, now, let me finish my story. Ain't nobody got time for you and your wannabe, Cupid ass. She sat there, guiding the horse. Let's see, oh yeah, Dasinga had never gotten close to anyone that was gay before, and if he knew Ron was gay, he probably would have gotten to know him, but once he found out, they had already became friends. Anyways, Dasinga and Ron's last days at the VA came and went, and they kept in contact occasionally. He was about 27 years old during this time, when he finished his stay at the VA and was sent to a halfway house, because he had nowhere to go and Ron went to stay with his brother. Since he had nowhere to go, he had to complete another 90 days at their halfway house. As a requirement to stay there, he had to attend AA meetings, and find a job after the first 30 days, but he found one in 2 weeks as a security guard at Southwest Hospital, working from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. A few months later, he moved into a regular rooming house, more like a bed and breakfast building, and was content with his living arrangement. Mammalean? What's a hospital, A meetings, and AVA? Mammalean laughed as she stopped and explained everything he didn't understand. Once he understood, she quickly began her story again. Now, where did I stop? Cush smiled. He moved to that halfway house and got a work permit at that hospital in the Southwest? Mammalean smiled. Southwest Hospital was the name of the hospital. Okay, one night while at work, he saw a beautiful woman he had never seen before. She was a slender woman who walked with grace, poised, and eloquence. One of the most beautiful things he had ever seen in his life was walking towards him in the hallway as he was making his rounds in the hospital. He wanted to stop and talk to her, but he only nodded his head. Hello. She smiled. Hi. As she passed him, he turned around to look at her. But to his surprise, she had turned around to look back at him, and they smiled back at each other with embarrassment. They were both embarrassed, because they did not expect to see each other looking back at one another. Dasinga felt she was out of his league and would not want someone of his stature, but little did he know she was just as interested in him as he was in her. He overheard the doctors, nurses, EMT, and just about everyone were trying to talk to her. She was friendly and always spoke when she was spoken to, but Dasinga felt she would be more interested in them than him because they made more money than him. Now, Dasinga would take his Torah to work with him and read it whenever there was an opportunity to do so. By working that late at night, the opportunity came more than he thought. A week or so passed, and he had made his round and decided to read his Torah in the ER or emergency room because it was quiet and there were no patients. She was an intake receptionist in the ER, and she saw him reading the Torah. I see you read the Torah a lot. Are you a Christian? Her voice was like a breath of fresh air, soft and refreshing, with a bit of an accent he could not predetermine. He smiled, yes and no. She looked at him. What does that mean, yes and no? That's confusing. He smiled back at her. Well, do I believe in Christ? That's what they called Mshika back then. Cush had gotten lost in the story and politely said, yes I know. Mammalean continued. He said, well, do I believe in Christ? Yes. But no, I do not hold on to the traditions of men and let them dictate to me how to serve my God. That's a definite no. Amazed at his answers, she smiled. I like that. Dasinga was curious. I hear an accent I'm not familiar with because I have friends from Jamaica and Trinidad. It sounds similar, but it's different. Where are you from? She smiled, and what a beautiful smile it was. As she blushed, I'm from St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, but my family comes from Tortola, the British Virgin Islands.